Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Night Forecast. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you're all good and well. First things first, bit of housekeeping. If you could hit the subscribe button to get involved in the chat, and hit the like button would really help us out a lot. And the more likes we get, the more people getting involved, the more opinions we get, and the more we got to talk about, which is all good. Tonight we're joined by Matt, who's turning out to be probably the busiest man on Trippers this week. Luke from Part Lane Podcast and Patrick from Back of the Nest.
Back of the Nest is correct.
Back of the Nest.
That's the one.
So we've got Spurs, Palace, Liverpool. This should be fun. So what we'll do is we'll start off. I mean, the thing is, was looking at the games for this weekend, and tomorrow, I was saying to the lads off air before we came on, if you're going to go and make an early start in your Christmas shopping, tomorrow's the day to go. Tomorrow's the day to turn around to your partner and say, do you know what? I really, really care about you. I really think that we should go and see what we can do. I'll take you out and we'll just go and get what we need to get done tomorrow. I promise. Yeah, we'll sit all day and we'll do whatever. Just leave me alone on Sunday. Because tomorrow there's nothing on. But Sunday, 12 noon, Chelsea-Arsenal, it kicks off. And look, we've got vested interest in the games that we've got vested interest in, but as a neutral, that's a tasty game with an awful lot on it. Start with Matt. You looking forward to that one, Matt? Because you'll be up early.
Oh, yeah, it's 7 o'clock in the morning kickoff for me. So get up nice and early, get a cup of coffee and sit down and hopefully watch these two take slugs out of each other, And it's fine by me, But a nice, hard-played, hard-fought game where everybody has to run their bollocks off, that's just totally fine by me. But I'm interested to see what Chelsea's lineup's going to be at the back. Thiago Silva will certainly play. You're going to get Cucurella left side. Does he go back to Koulibaly, or is the shirt Trevoh Chalobah's now going forward, sort of thing? And I think Arsenal might have the easiest to predict starting 11 ever. I think pretty much every single person knows exactly who's playing for Arsenal. It's their go-to. And just the last thing, I found out a really neat fact. You guys have a guess of who's played the third most minutes in the league for Chelsea this year?
Third most.
The most is Thiago Silva with 900. Mason Mount has 885, and the player in question has 872.
I take a punt on Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, I would guess the same.
No, he's close to that.
Luke,
you got a guess?
No, I have no idea. Especially the managerial change. I have no idea.
It took me by surprise. It's Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never would have guessed that.
Because I was thinking about him yesterday when we were talking about midfielders that Liverpool could possibly look at signing in January. And, he meant that, you might be able to. I thought, he's not playing for Chelsea. And I looked at the stats. I was like, holy, look at that. He plays pretty much every minute of every game. So that took me by surprise. But, yeah, it's I think it's going to be a really, really good game.
It will be. I mean, the thing is, when you look at the way the table is at the minute, Arsenal flying high. I mean, it's got to stick in your craw to say it, but they're flying high. Their only way really is down from here. It's just a case of how long can they keep this going? Because Matt's right. They're the easiest 11 to predict because he has his go-to players for the league and he rotates like crazy in the cups. And that's worked for him so far. And that's fine. That will get you. That might be enough for them this season. We don't know, but this is a huge test for a number of reasons, and the main reason for me is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. This has a lot of spice thrown into this game that normally has it in spades anyway, but you throw Aubameyang into this mix, it's set to explode, isn't it? It really could. Yeah. It could go right off.
And throw into the mix as well the BT Sport advert. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it.
Build up to the game.
Oh, when he's there,
and he's like, "Oh no animosity, Arsenal," or something like that. It's quite good actually. I despise both Chelsea and Arsenal, right?
So equal measures.
I hope so.
No. Obviously, I hate Arsenal more, but I'm quite jealous of Matt actually. 7 o'clock game, wake up, coffee, watch the football. Like,
same for me.
Excuse. There's no excuse for your missus can't say to you, "Oh, we've got to go out and do something." Like,
that is true.
Like, probably still in bed. Do you know what I mean? So, no, I think it's going to be a really good game. Like, I agree with you though. Like, for me, how long can Arsenal stay in this form? How long? For the start of the season, I've been saying, Arsenal doing great, but at some point the wheels have to come off. At some point they have to start losing games. But it just doesn't seem to be happening, and it's driving me insane. It's like driving me nuts because I think when at the start it was Gabriel Jesus scoring all the goals, and then his goal drop started coming in. He started slowing up on the goals, but they are getting goals all over the pitch, and they're solid at the back. It is worrying, but I have said from the very start of the season, like, I am worried about the size of Arsenal's squad, and I was worried that if there were injuries came into people like Martinelli, Jesus, even like Saliba at the back, then I would worry about Arsenal, how they could, withstand that. But again, they don't seem to be getting injuries. Yeah, do you know what? It's weird because, like, I don't want a Chelsea win because obviously they're below us in the league.
Reasons, yeah.
But I don't want an Arsenal win at the same time. I still don't think a draw is any good either. So, like, whatever outcome happens in this game, like, I'm screwed regardless.
Yeah, it's just a case of how, levels of screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think an awful lot of this depends on if you know anyone in work and how much of a ribbon are you going to take and which one is the most gentle of the two. But Patrick, Luke was saying there about Gabriel Jesus. Now, at the start of the season, he came in. He was on fire. He was the go-to in fantasy football. He was big money. Let's call it what it was. It was a big money move.
Right.
But you're signing a potential Brazil number 9. So Arsenal spent heavy, but I think Red Steve put it in the chat there. We all said this about Leicester. They're going to drop. Arsenal aren't Leicester.
Never happened, yeah.
They're young, they're a young squad, and I think they'll develop. I think if he can keep this core squad together, they'll be a hell of a side over the next 5-year cycle. But how do you see it? Because, I mean, you're London boy, a lot of your mates I'd imagine would have supported Arsenal as well as Spurs and Chelsea and what have you. So what are the people around Arsenal telling you?
Well, my nephew is a massive Arsenal fan. So, having said that, from South London, so for what it's worth. So, listen, right now, I don't even know what to say. The only thing I think I'll point out is that there is that stat out there now that no side has ever not won the title at this time of the year from being in first, except for Newcastle, that Newcastle team in the 90s. So the chances are they're going to finish first or second, which will surprise me. But Kev make a great point. They've got a very young squad. Manchester's doing a tremendous job with them. But like Luke said, injuries to me have to happen at some point. They're not a deep squad. What might help them is the World Cup break's coming up in 2 more weeks. Then you've got 2 matches. Then you've got the transfer window opening up. So they may be able to survive this and get reinforcements. I see Tomiyasu got injured. He's going to be out for a while. We haven't seen Zinchenko for a while. He's injured. Saka was hurt, but he's going to be okay. So El Nenny's back. He can cover for Partey. So right now they're going to be fine. So, but I have to feel that a key injury. You just mentioned Jesus has been brilliant all season, hasn't scored of late, but is playing really well. Or maybe to Partey or Odegaard, and then they'll be in trouble. But like I just said, they're only going to get through the next 2 matches, and then 2 before Christmas, and then they can just go out and buy players in January. So I think they're in it for the long haul. I still think City's going to win the title. I really do, but I think Arsenal will be there with them for the entire season.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't know how many Arsenal players are going to the World Cup. Off the top of my head, Jesus is going. Gabriel is probably going. Ramsdale's going.
Saka's going.
Saka will definitely go.
Martinelli,
maybe. No, I doubt
maybe. Yeah, not sure.
Tomiyasu will go.
Yeah, Tomiyasu injured, right? Ben White possibly.
Yeah, it should be going. I think a lot of it, Matt, is going to depend on how healthy they come back.
Exactly.
And how many of them play deep into the World Cup, because the World Cup finishes, then 3 days later
the game
is the fourth round of the Carabao Cup.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, it's a pity Thomas Partey isn't going to be involved in the late stages of the World Cup because he has practice of doing that. Finishing a major tournament, jumping on a plane, and coming back and playing poorly for Arsenal.
Yeah,
but he's going. You're right. He'll be there though with Ghana. So yeah.
Yeah, he'll be there with Ghana. But I don't know if Arsenal can spend. The thing is, they have really invested a lot and they haven't sold much. So I think they might be limited on how many they can do, but they might be able to do one. And you got to look at the squad is fairly full, so they might need to sell one to bring one in. You don't know. I mean, there was talk of Rob Holding probably going. The thing is, that's the danger for them, isn't it? If they get an injury to a key centre back, Saliba, Gabriel, you're down to Ben White, you're down to Rob Holding, aren't you?
Rob Holding, yeah.
And then you see what happened at the latter stages of last season, because that's exactly what happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. I wouldn't be so much worried about them losing forward players. They have forward players coming out their ear holes. You still got Emile Smith-Rowe to come back into the squad as well.
Right.
So, and Vieira looks like he's bedding into the side nice. He looks like they're using the Europa League games to bed those players in. And I gotta admire the way he's doing it, to be honest, because if roles were reversed and we were in his boat doing this, I'd be over the moon. I'd be looking at the squad's getting rested in the week. They're playing Saturday, Sunday. You're only dropping players in and out in Europe. You've topped your group in Europe. You've done everything that's asked of you. Matt, is it a surprise that Barcelona might come calling for him?
I mean, it's a surprise to me that Barcelona is able to do anything financially. But what they did in the summer, after all the stories that you heard through last season and in the summer about the dire financial straits, and like selling your future television rights, just seems nigh on suicidal. And so, and I'm okay with it. I mean, Barcelona is a huge institution. They'll never, they're too big to fail. It's not like Barcelona will cease to be a club. They'll just have to have some hard times. And you know what? That's fine. All the big teams should have to have hard times. That's how you build proper history. That'll just be another chapter in Barcelona's history. But I mean, Barcelona completely baffles me. And I think they might be there for the taking, if they don't manage to win the Spanish league.
Well, what I'm saying is, if they decide to get rid of Xavi, Mikel Arteta is on their list. He's been reported in the last few days that
hot young prospect. There's no doubt about it. In my mind, Mikel Arteta is going to jump ship on Arsenal the second Pep Guardiola leaves Manchester City. I think he's just like the second in command of Pep Guardiola. I mean, he studied at his heel, and that's fine. He kind of models himself off of Pep Guardiola, and I think once Guardiola leaves City, I think City might give their first call to Mikel Arteta, and I think he'll drop Arsenal in a hot second.
Luke. Chelsea, Graham Potter. He's done well since he's come in, but he's still finding his feet, isn't he? How do you see that? I mean, how did you see the move when it happened?
Yeah,
and what have been your impressions of watching Chelsea under him?
Yeah, well, when Spurs had Nuno, and then even before Nuno, I was a big advocate for Graham Potter coming to Spurs. I like him. I think he's a good youngish manager, and I was kind of really excited to see him take a step up. And as you say, it hasn't been the easiest transition, from managing at Brighton and playing great football to then coming into Chelsea and kind of struggling to find his feet as such. Of course, Chelsea are a big side and they have big players and they are going to win games. Yeah. But it's how he manages that. And one of the things I do respect him for is the fact that he has not played specific players just based on their name, their status in football history, or previous experience. He has played the players that he likes. He's played a lot of Conor Gallagher. He's played a lot of Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He's played a lot of these players that before wouldn't get a chance at Chelsea. And I do respect him for that. Will he succeed doing that? Is very, very early to tell. But No, I quite like him. You know, apart from the fact that he's managing Chelsea, you know, I quite like him, and I think he's a kind of manager that he needs a few seasons. He needs time. You know, Chelsea need to know that they're under these new owners. They're not going to kind of win the Premier League in the next 2-3 years, I wouldn't imagine. But having Graham Potter there, I think that it could only be good as long as he's given time and resources to do so.
Well, Patrick, the one thing that Chelsea are under him is entertaining. They're good. He's turned them into a good watch, and I don't. I'm like, we can pretty much name the Arsenal 1 to 11. I don't know what he's going to do.
Nah,
I suppose that's the bonus in some ways. It must be exciting for the fans because it's the one thing with Chelsea over the years. They've had top end managers, and it's pretty regimented. When you get a top manager into a club, they're regimented in how they play. And they don't really experiment too much. They'll stick with what they know, and they'll stick with the core players. But the general patterns of play is the same. Potter seems to be trying to find his feet about what this core squad is capable of doing. But are you the same as Luke? Would you go out of your way to watch Chelsea now, irrespective of who they're playing? Are they that type of team yet?
Well, you know, he comes from our biggest rivals, Brighton, so I've watched him a lot. So, but I've always rated him. Always rated him as a manager. Really have. I've always thought he was a really good manager. Would I got away to watch Chelsea play? Probably not. My brother's a Chelsea supporter, so not really. And they've had so much success under their previous ownership that I'm extremely jealous. But just as far as Potter now, I think he's going to be just fine. They've got a very deep squad. He uses the entire squad. He's not going to alienate any place. One of the players I hope he was going to not play was Gallagher, which we were trying to get him back, and he's got himself back in there with a slight chance to get into the England squad for Qatar, which is good for him. You mentioned before Loftus-Cheek, we had on loan also. He's playing. I can't believe he's playing that many minutes. Always injured prior to coming to us on loan. So no, I mean, look what he did with Kepa today. He took out Kepa halftime of a match and swapped goalies. I mean, who does that? So I mean, I look at the record. I think they've lost one game under him to the wrong team. It was Brighton, obviously, and it looked really bad with the 2 own goals. But no, for me, Potter's is going to do a very good job, and I think the future is very bright for Chelsea, which is very unfortunate, honestly.
That's an interesting question, Matt. Actually, do you think Potter has a bit of a free pass this season, coming in after the window shut?
It's certainly a get out of jail free card for him. He can always fall back on that. These aren't my players. I'm trying to make my system. Like, you guys hired me to coach a team in my style. Obviously, that's what you do. It's pretty strange to bring a manager in and go change what you've done to work with the players we've got here. So he's kind of got that get out of jail free card. It's a bit what Gerrard had last year, when he took over at Villa, and then was kind of found out pretty promptly that players might not have been the majority of the problem. Might not have been the majority of the problem there, but
no.
He's a good manager. And like, there's something about Graham Potter's story that, is kind of romantic. Having to go to Sweden, what is it, Östersunds or something like that.
Östersund,
and work his way like properly up through the ranks. Like, he's got a pretty great story about him, and he seems like a decent enough guy. And I don't hate Brighton, so I don't have anything bad to say about him. But I don't want to see Chelsea. I don't want to see Chelsea succeed. I was hoping that he wouldn't end up at the Chelsea job when Tuchel got sacked, but they moved pretty quickly.
One quick question for yourself, Matt and Patrick, because you're over that side of the world. Todd Boehly, what's the story with him in American sports that we don't know? Or the thing is, the impression that I've got is, okay, they'll pump money into Chelsea for a while, but they'll want a return on their investment. Is that the way he kind of operates, or is it, grow the brand as much as possible, sell as much merchandise and tickets as possible, get earn as much money as from the TV rights, but eventually make the club pay their own way? I can't imagine he's going to pump his own money in forever.
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, my only dealings with him, honestly, has been on the baseball side. I'm a big baseball fan, I'm a Yankees fan. So he owns the Dodgers, and they've done very well under him. They won World Series a couple of seasons ago. So, and I don't see him just pumping money in and taking it out. I think he wants to build. Dodgers are a tremendous brand over here on the baseball side. So I see him wanting to be successful. I know he owns a couple of other franchises over here, but far from the baseball side, he seems to very much want to The manager has been there for a while. He doesn't fire managers on a whim. The team's been successful, weren't great this season, but they were okay. Like I said, won the World Cup a couple of years ago. So I feel like he's the kind of person that's going to be in there for the long haul if he feels that the right person is in charge of, whoever's running the team.
Matt,
he's certainly he's pumped a lot of money into the Dodgers. And like Patrick said, the Dodgers are humongous. They are Los Angeles's team. There's not a lot of Anaheim Angels fans and San Diego Padres fans. In that California market, it is the Dodgers. And there's a big market for baseball there. And he built a winning team, signing big name free agents. One of the biggest moves the Dodgers made is one of the things that Red Sox fans don't like about FSG, our owners, is that FSG didn't want to give Mookie Betts, who was maybe the best player in baseball, a huge contract. A Boston guy that came through the farm system, and Boehly went, whatever you want, here you go. But
100%, yeah.
Baseball and their contracts can be real, it's long-term risk for short-term success because you give guys humongous contracts that are massively back-ended with guaranteed money with no way to get out of it. Bobby Bonilla collected $10 million a year from the Mets for 35 years.
25, 30 years, yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's madness contracts. So, but to me, Boehly seems like the type of owner that wants the prestige that comes with owning a team that wins titles. That's to me what he wants. And I think his obsession with spending money with Chelsea will continue until either they win the league or the Champions League, or somebody in the accounting department taps him on the shoulder and goes, hey,
agree, yeah, probably.
800 million in 3 years, and we're not seeing a huge uptick, and we're not bringing trophies home. Maybe it's time to reel it in. And when a team becomes a play, when a franchise becomes a plaything like that to a billionaire, to me, it's a pretty risky situation to be in because you don't know when he's willing to just cut his losses.
That's mad.
And just say, I'm done, I'm out, and move along, and then Chelsea are thrown into a bit more disarray. But fingers crossed that happens.
It's going to be a ride for sure. Luke, I asked you for a score prediction. How do you think this one's going to go?
I think Arsenal will beat them. I think they'll beat them 2-3-1, but I hope it's a 2-2 draw. But I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal, unfortunately.
And Patrick?
I'm going to go 2-2. Aubameyang definitely scores. Jesus probably scores. So, I'll go 2-2.
Does he run the length of the pitch?
That would be brilliant. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if he did that?
That is the question.
Yeah.
How much does he celebrate? He's got to, isn't he? He's going to... I can imagine doing a Suarez dive in front of... what's his face? Arteta, yeah. That'd be hilarious. Brilliant. But, Matt, how do you see this one going, mate?
I think it's got 1-1 written all over it. It's got to be Aubameyang to score. Whether he starts or comes off the bench, it just kind of feels like it's in the cards for him to play a part in this. And I think he would celebrate if he scored, just because of how he was turfed out of the club.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, not like he left with a handshake.
I went 2-1 Chelsea. I think Arsenal will. I think Arsenal will slip. I think they got one or two too many injuries. I think the Tomiyasu one was a real sickener because he was a sub who came on, felt his hamstring, went off. Tierney's not right. Saka's not right. Chelsea got injury problems too, but I think they've got a bit of a deeper squad. It's going to be a fascinating game. Laszlo's gone for a 3-1. Tom's gone for 3-1. Red Steve's gone for a 2-1 to Arsenal. It's going to be definitely well worth the 12 o'clock start because we've got 3 games on the bounce, and the second game on the Sunday is West Ham against Crystal Palace. Patrick, we'll come to you first. I think we had you on really early in the season, and you were pretty optimistic about where Palace were going and the direction the club was going. How are you now? How are you seeing it at the minute? I mean, you're level with us on points.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you told me at any point in any season we'd be level with Liverpool, I would take it.
Yeah.
So to be 12 matches in, 4 wins, 4 draws, 4 losses, 10th place, with injuries to a couple of our key players, and not even the squad that Vieira even wants right now, I couldn't be any happier, honestly. I really couldn't be. having said that, our away record has been horrendous this season. We've yet to win a match. We drew with you guys. That's when I came on, actually, the draw right before the draw at Liverpool. Yeah. Right. The Newcastle, we drew Leicester away. So, and we've lost the other matches. So we're looking for an away win, and West Ham has not been a happy hunting ground for us, honestly. So it'll be interesting Sunday for sure. But again, as far as the season is concerned, I could not be happier to be in 10th place right now with all the things going on around the club. Yeah.
Standout player for you this season that you've enjoyed watching?
That's a great question. Eberechi Eze so far. Coming off that Achilles injury from last season, he's really, we put him in a free role in the midfield. We lost Conor Gallagher. So midfield kind of hasn't really been firing. But as far as the midfield concerned, he's been great. And you've got Zaha on the left, Olise on the right, Edouard up top. It's been exciting to see the four of them play together. But for me, to see him get back from the injury, even talked about to Qatar, which is not going to happen. Even talk about to go to the World Cup is great for him. So for me, it's been Eze so far, for sure.
Yeah. Laszlo's saying there, he loves watching Palace from the back end of last season. They've been really good as a casual watcher. They've been one of these sides. I'm like that with Leeds. They're the kind of side I enjoy watching because they attack the game. I honestly didn't think Eze had this in him to play in that third midfielder role,
right?
And I saw you see it as well with Everton with Iwobi. These wingers, they're physically bigger guys. They're not like your traditional like Mo Salah type of winger who's like 5'9" or whatever. And these guys, they're pretty big, strong guys, but they've played out in the wing at the early parts of their career, and they're just coming back into midfield. Yeah, they've got the ability to play with the ball and to find a pass and whatever. But they're so comfortable on the ball, and he's so young. I mean, is it going to be a problem? Well, I'll come back to you in a second with this one. But Matt, is it going to be a problem for Patrick to keep hold of the likes of Eze and Michael Olise? And Wilf Zaha, the Wilf Zaha question is there as well.
Yeah, I said this last night. We were talking about Zaha as a possible option for us to go for as offensive backup, either in January or in the summer sort of thing. I hope he stays at Palace. He tried his flirtation with going to a big club. It didn't really work out for him. He went back to Palace and he picked up right where he left off. And I think good on him for that. He can be the big fish in the big pond there. But they should have trouble keeping hold of these young players because since Vieira came in last season, I really enjoyed watching Palace, and I shouldn't, because the only Premier League game I've gotten to see with mine own two eyes was the game earlier this year. So I should really despise Palace, but I don't because I just look at the squads of some of the teams that are kind of in that middle lower half of the table, and they had such a bounty of attacking talent in that team. Edouard, Mateta, Zaha, Olise, Eze, they had Benteke until they finally kicked him down the road, thankfully. But there's a lot of teams in the Premier League that would be happy to have 2 or 3 of those quality of players in their team. It would make a huge, huge difference for them. So that's why I like watching Palace play. They got really exciting attacking players going forward. And Vieira seems to have found a fantastic center half partnership. Gahey and Anderson have been brilliant.
Yes.
Better than our center halves have been this season. And that's not something I ever thought I would say. A pairing of Mark Gahey and Joachim Anderson, formerly of Fulham, would be more impressive over, 12 games of a season than Virgil van Dijk and me. That's a wild thing to say, but it could be an issue. And I think it's the same issue that I think Arsenal's going to have too. Is you got a lot of young attacking players that are going to be looking for, good contracts or bigger teams or something like that. And if you got too many of them, you can't guarantee playing time and you're going to have to lose them. So yeah, hopefully it does Palace well because I like having Palace in the Premier League. I don't want to see a Premier League without Crystal Palace in it. They got good fans. So
cool. Luke, West Ham in Europe, they haven't really hit the highs of last season. But they're finding, I wouldn't say they're finding form, but they're picking up points and they're getting the job done. They've got players coming back. Lucas Paqueta coming back, might be available for this weekend. And they're almost like the nearly team at the minute, aren't they? They're nearly on the verge of doing something.
Yeah, I remember people saying West Ham are massive last season, wasn't it? It was the going rounds on social media. But anyway, I think that, like, as you say, they're not really hitting those highs of last season, but I feel like that period when they were really fighting for Europa League, Champions League spots, and still fighting in European competitions was the downfall of them. I also think that season, going far in Europe and doing well in the Premier League is kind of just an anomaly in a West Ham team. And they have started this season poorly. They have started it very poorly, really. If you look at it, I think where are they standing now? They're standing 13th, but prior to winning, I think they were like 18th or 19th, weren't they? So it's not been a great start to the season, but I don't know. I don't really like David Moyes, and I don't really like West Ham, so it's a really difficult pill to try and kind of chew over. On the flip side of that, I have literally no animosity towards Palace, and weirdly, I should have some toward Patrick Vieira, but I don't either. And I think I agree with you boys. I think that they play great football. I think that they've got an amazing attitude towards recruitment, and I feel like the way that they have grown from, because I watched the Palace documentary on Amazon Prime, and I feel like the way they kind of have grown out of that phase, of nearly going into extinction has been brilliant, and I can only praise them for that. I think the players, like we've already mentioned, Eze, Elise, they are players that I wish Spurs had tried to go for, young raw talent from the Championship. I also really like Gehi at centre back as well, even Mitchell as well. I think they've got some really, really promising talent, and that would be the only thing as a Palace fan, if I was one, I'd be worried about how they keep hold of these players and how they kind of, because I wouldn't be too worried about the likes of Zaha. I kind of agree with Matt. He's flirted with the idea of playing for a big club and realised that actually, do you know what? I'd probably rather play for, and no disrespect to Crystal Palace, a mediocre Premier League team, but be a star at that club, because he has the attitude and the kind of the way about him of kind of being a star player. And I think it's much easier for him to be a star player at Palace.
Well, that's the main question, Patrick, isn't it? Is it a case that they haven't had discussions yet, or have they had contract talks earlier on and decided, no, we'll just hold off until after the World Cup? Or what's the story there? Because today I've seen him linked with a possible move to Barcelona and Juventus.
Yep.
And I was on here, I'd say it was about 3-4 weeks ago. And I'm exactly the same boat as Matt. I think that he should stay where he is and retire at Palace and be a Palace legend for the rest of his life. He'll be loved there forever. But at the same time, if he leaves, he's good enough. He's better than being a bench option at Liverpool.
Right.
And he's better than that, because look, a fit Luis Diaz will start ahead of him. That's just reality. But he could go to most clubs in Europe and, see out the next 4 or 5 years of his career at whatever club. If he was to go to, say, an Atletico Madrid type of club, or a Barcelona, Juventus, Roma, Milan, he wouldn't look out of place in any of those sides. If he went to Germany, go to Bayern. Or sorry, not Bayern, Dortmund.
Dortmund, right.
He might not play for Bayern, but he would play for Dortmund. Do you think that's going to be... I don't want him to stay in England if he doesn't stay at Palace.
I'm the same.
Because I think... No, you are for obvious reasons, but I am because I look at the sides that are in the top 4 now. I'm looking and think, okay, you're going to be a squad option for them. And you're better than that. So how do you see it playing out in you? Do you see him staying first and foremost?
So there's a lot to this. So he turned 30 in about a week. He'll be 30. So there's that hanging over his head. So when you turn 30, your last contract is the next one. He won't get a bigger contract after this. Today it was mentioned him going to Barcelona in the press conference, and Vieira laughed it off. Not because he doesn't think good enough for Barcelona. He just tired of hearing these rumors over and over again. So the latest that I heard is that we actually put a verbal contract to him, which he's thinking over, but nothing in writing, because we're waiting until before the World Cup, or during the World Cup break, to sit down with the agent and talk about it. But Wilf is being very coy and very smart. He's saying all the right things. He's a Palace boy, South London, came to our academy, like you guys have mentioned, left, came back. Waters weren't great. We went to United, came back. He's a legend at Palace. Would be a legend whether he leaves or not. Hopefully, we want him to stay, but he's keeping his options open. I'm hoping that he stays for obvious reasons. You've made great links. All the links you talked about. I've heard Milan, Dortmund, Juventus. I've heard them all. He's got a young family though in London. He's got two young boys. He's engaged. He loves being here. I don't know if the United left him with a very poor feeling of leaving London. I don't know going to Europe is going to make it better. Having said that, it's a challenge that he may want to take on. Like he just said, he's going to be 30 in a couple of weeks. And does he want that? He deserved the chance to play in Europe. We're not going to be in Europe this year. Maybe next year if we get very, very, very lucky. It's unlikely. So I think that it comes down to what does he feel he wants to do next. Again, you know how it works is that in January, you can sign a pre-contract with anybody in Europe and we lose him for nothing. We're not going to sell him in January.
No.
The only team I could see him going to, honestly, would be Arsenal. He's an Arsenal supporter as when he was young, and obviously they're doing really well. But you just said, would he start for Arsenal? You got Saka on one side, you got Martinelli on the other side, you got Smith Rowe. He's not going to want to go somewhere and not play. So, having said all of that, my hope is that he stays. Should he leave, please go to Europe. Don't go to a side in England, please. That would destroy me. But where he goes, I wish him the best. I'm not kind of person that would wish him any ill harm. Wolf's been brilliant for Palace, so I hope.
One other thing I wanted to ask you, I saw something online. I don't know, it was last week or the week before, but it was redevelopment plans for Selhurst Park. Yeah. What's the story there?
So finally,
it looks impressive.
It's going to be fantastic when it gets done. We finally got approval from Croydon Council for it to happen. The problem is, the issue is that there are houses behind the stand that we have to build. We want to build back on. We have to find houses for those people, buy them, relocate them, then they can knock the houses down. But it's been approved by Croydon Council. It's going to probably be starting about, I'm going to say 2023, 24, if we're lucky. So we'll probably have a new stand. It's going to be the one where the dugouts are, the family stand, that side. It's not going to be the other side. So it'll be built up. Then we'll build around this. I guess we have to say architect that did the redoing at Liverpool. So it's going to be similar with that. I think they'll build the stand behind it and then push it forward. Wherever I think that's how you guys did it, right? So but hopefully, like I said, in 2 years, that'll get done. And that's going to be fantastic. We need the bigger stadium. We need, the revenue that will generate from it. And just the fact that, I love Selhurst Park, but it does need an upgrade. So
it does massively. I mean, it's probably one of the last grounds now, along with Goodison, I suppose, that are in the Premier League. You look back to the old videos of the start of the Premier League in 1992, and it's like, ain't changed.
It's the same. Yep.
It's true. And that stadium was used every week back then because Wimbledon were playing.
And Charlton.
It was mad.
Yeah.
But, Matt, scores time. How do you see this one going? West Ham at home to Crystal Palace.
I got 2-0 Palace win. I don't think West Ham score enough goals. I think Palace is sound enough at the back and more dangerous going forward. So home advantage means nothing. 2-0 Palace.
I like Matt. A lot.
Well, do you know what? I was literally thinking about that when Matt was talking. And in my brain, I had 2-0 Palace. But do you know what? I'll change it up. So I'll just say 1-0 Palace. So we're not all going for the same score. But yeah, I think you're right, Matt. I think that Palace have, in my opinion, the better players than West Ham do. And I think they're playing better football this season. Simple as that.
I'll come to Patrick last. I had it down as a 2-1 Palace win. But I don't know. That hoodoo of not winning away from home is a tough one to get over, especially for a young side. I think first goal is everything in this. If they can get the first goal, the fact that West Ham played in Europe in the week, Palace have had the week to prepare for this. It's a local derby. Anything can go in this game. But yeah, I went 2-1 Palace. Patrick, how do you see it?
I love all three of those predictions, by the way. So I'll give you a little history lesson. There's not been a scoreless game in 10 years in this rivalry. So that's the first thing. There'll definitely be goals in this. But historically, we tend to draw away from home against West Ham. I don't know why that is. Last year was 2-2. Year before that, it was 1-1. We get a lot of draws at London Stadium, Upton Park, wherever we play it. We don't tend to do as well at home. Having said that, again, the fact we have won a game away, it's definitely going to be a draw. So I'm going to go for a 1-1.
A point wouldn't be the worst. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world at the minute. You know,
we do a podcast, and I said I bite your hand off for 1-1, and Dee said, "Why would you say that? It's only West Ham." I said, okay, but we're Palace. We haven't won away at home. We haven't won away all season, so I'll take a draw on Sunday for sure.
Fair show. Who's he got there? O'Sheen's gone 3-0 Palace. Zaha hat trick. Cool. Tom Boehly 1-0 Palace.
Love that.
You're all bloody arselicers, the whole lot of you. Bunkers got 1-1. Laszlo's got 1-1.
I was impressed how we all went for a Palace win, and then the Palace fan went for a draw.
But the person who knows, yeah, exactly. Which is why you guys are great.
Matt did a show last night, and it ended up the last half of the show. They were talking about transfers, and Declan Rice's name kept popping up. And he'd be this, he'd be that. You all think that Declan Rice is going to have an absolute stinker tomorrow, don't you? Every single one of you in the chat.
Hope so. Needs to happen.
Last but not least, our trip to London, away from home. We haven't won a game away in the league in how long, Matt? It's been a minute.
Welcome to Tottenham.
Yeah, too long.
Way too long. So long, I can't remember. And
well, it would have to have been the second or third last game of last season, because I mean we were just winning every game, chasing the quad at the end of last season. So we're winning home and away pretty much every single week. So, and nothing this year. So, boy, we're due.
Was it the Southampton game?
Yeah, it might have been.
Oh,
I think that was the second to last game of the year.
That sucks.
Yeah. That's months ago. That's May?
But on the upside, the upside. I had a quick look at the Champions League results afterwards, and the fact that in our last 2 Champions League away games, scored 10 goals. Couldn't put a single one past Forest or Leeds, but that's by the by, If you're going to do it in style. Smash 9 against Bournemouth and then go on a barren run. We did that with Palace. We smashed Palace up a few years ago, and then we couldn't win anything. We couldn't win an argument.
Yeah, 6 straight losses at home following that game.
Exactly. It's like when 1-0 is enough, 1-0 is enough. There's no need to be going doing the dog. But this is no joke. We're in trouble. We're 10 points behind Spurs going into this, and for us, it's a game we have to win. I mean, I hate using the word season defining 12 games in, but given where we are and how we've been playing and the crisis of injuries that we have, and we have had for a while, if we got 13 points behind Spurs with 13 games gone, that's a long road back.
Yeah,
how do you see it going? Like,
when you're in an individual game, if you're down 3-0 in the first half, you can still convince you there's plenty of time to come back. And then it starts getting into the 75th, 80th minute, and you're like, fuck, we're just running out. So, we might only be in that analogy at, 1-0 or 2-0 down, and there's still plenty of time for us to come back. But these are big games. We can't be – the last 2 league games, we've dropped points when the teams above us have dropped points, and we've missed out on the opportunity to just make up some ground. And so these head-to-head games are going to be huge. And we have to see an improvement on last year's record in our games against the other top 6 teams, because we were pretty bad against our top 6 rivals, United excluded from that, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go – I think Liverpool is going to go with the 4-3-3. I think we're going to stick with it. I think we're going to go with the Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago midfield.
Yeah.
And just try to stick to the tried and true. The back 4, I think, is the back 4 with Ibu in it. Regular fullbacks, Ali and Van Dijk, obviously. And for me, the big question is, what do we do at left wing?
Left wing.
With our injuries there, do we try to shift Darwin out and see what kind of change we could get off of presumably Emerson Royale and Longley maybe, or Ben Davies or Dyer? I'm not sure who plays out of the right side of Spurs in center half. But I think it's going to be Curtis Jones again. I think he played a system game. You know, he was where he needed to be. He did the things he needed to do in the last game. I think it's going to be Salah, Darwin, and Curtis across the top for us, and we're just going to try to find that old mojo again with the guys we've done before, because the old system worked in the last game. So fingers crossed. But like, I'm so happy we got a Spurs fan on here, because I there's some question marks about Spurs. You know, exactly what they're going to do in their lineup.
Lead away, my son. Lead away.
There's a lot of question marks about Spurs. I need answering as well, mate.
Ask away, Matt. Ask away, Matt.
Is he going to risk those players that are kind of on the fence? Like, I was just kind of looking through some of the injury reports, and like Lucas Moura, game time decision. Yeah. You know, like he had pain in training yesterday and it seemed worse than possible, and he was worried about it. Like Bentancur, game time decision. Kulusevski might be ready to come back in, not match fit. Does Conte just throw him right back into it from the start? I'm not entirely sure, but he's got to take the chance on at least one, if not two, of those. You know, between Moura, Kulusevski, and Bentancur, one of them has to play at least, or else I'm not sure who plays up top with Harry Kane.
No, nor am I. You know, Son's out, Richarlison's out, Kulusevski. They thought he was going to be out until after the World Cup.
He's only had a couple of sessions. He's only had a session.
Trained, I think, today or yesterday. Yeah. He's only had like one training session, and I saw him running on a clip at half time in one of the last games that we played, and I think it was the last home game, and he didn't look great. People were like, "Oh yeah, he's back, he's back." I didn't think he looked great running. You know, I saw the celebration for the goal, which didn't stand against Sporting Lisbon, and again, he didn't look comfortable. So I would be surprised if he got more than 20 minutes at the weekend. I would be shocked. But you're right. You know, those questions need to be answered. You know, I think if Bentancur doesn't play in midfield, Spurs will really struggle transitioning from defense. We struggle enough to transition from defense to midfield. But if he doesn't play, I really worry who is going to be able to do that. And then when we get to that, you know, who's going to play alongside Harry Kane? Because the only other viable option is Bryan Hill, who's played next to no minutes.
Right.
So, yeah, I wasn't fully aware until I heard the press conference today about Lucas Moura. I knew that he was injured, and then he's come back in recent games because obviously with the Sonny injury and things like that, and he played with a 3 against Marseille, but then obviously Son got that pretty bad injury and now has to go for surgery. So, only when I read today that he said the pain was worse, like it differs from day to day with Lucas Moura, and I think it was like yesterday or whatever, it was worse. So, yeah, Spurs are struggling regardless of where we're sitting in the table, like sitting third in the Premier League. You know, if we look at Spurs as a whole and we say last 16 of the Champions League, top the group in the Champions League, third in the Premier League, you would be.
Well,
wow, Spurs
I was going to ask you because it's Conte has been at the club now a year.
Yeah.
It's a year this week, I think.
Yeah.
And considering where he was to where you are now, it's a marked improvement. I mean, look, I'll be the first one to say I can't stand watching Spurs play now. And it's just purely because of the system that he plays. But I couldn't stand watching Conte's Chelsea play. I couldn't stand watching Conte's Juventus play. It's just him. I can't stand watching any side that he has involvement with. That's saying that for you guys, it is a marked improvement on where you were. 100% has to be. But is the worry now? Are you screaming for the World Cup to start just for like a reset?
Yeah, definitely. Because the thing is with Conte, right? We can look at there's 2 separations between Conte in the back end of last season in the Premier League and Conte in the first half in the Premier League this season. And he has in my opinion, he has a lot of questions to answer in terms of how Spurs are continually playing passively, playing weak, playing scared football in the first half of the majority of matches. Like, I don't know if any of you guys saw the Marseille game in midweek.
No.
But the first half, we looked like a team that could get absolutely rolled over. And, of course, they had 3 ex-Arsenal players, 4 ex-Arsenal players in their squad. It was written in the stars that they were going to beat us. But, the second half comes around. And again, Spurs were a completely different animal. They attacked Marseille on the front foot. They won balls high up the pitch. They pressed and ended up winning the game. And so it's really, really difficult to see how a side can go from being so weak, so negative, so spineless to being a side that absolutely dictates and controls the game. It was exactly the same, apart from it took us a bit longer against Bournemouth, 2-0 down last weekend. And really good friend of mine, Ben, who's a Liverpool fan, funnily enough, was messaging me. And he was like, and usually I don't message anyone during the Spurs games, right? I just keep my phone off. And but 2-0 down, I was like, do you know what? I don't care anymore. So he was messaging me and he was like, you boys are going to come back. You're going to win. And we did. But to kind of sit there and having to go through that week in, week out, like I've even put a bet on myself, Liverpool to win at halftime, Spurs to win at full time, because that's the way I see it going. That's the way it's gone for the majority of this season. And I'm getting extremely frustrated with Antonio Conte's inability to change games through substitutions.
Well, I watched his press conference as well, and he talked about the mindset of the players, where it was, have what you hold type of attitude. Yeah. And he was talking about that from a player's perspective as well. But he must have gone into the dressing room at halftime to take the shackles off. You have to do something here. And they did. The one good thing that I looked at, the late winners, I mean, Matt will tell you, every club, Pat will tell you as well, every club loves a late winner. I mean, an Origi 96th minute winner against Everton is
Fabio Carvalho against Newcastle this year after they time wasted and he added on the extra minute. It was perfection, perfect karma.
Yeah, but the problem is when you're going to the well game after game after game, that won't last long. I mean, we're seeing it in games that we're playing, like Leeds and Forest. We had ample chances to win those 2 games. Ample chances. Didn't take them. Got caught out in a sucker punch. And it's like, you're in a good position. Is it maintainable for one? And what does he need to do in January? Or what's the talk about what the club are capable of doing in January is the other thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned quickly about last minute kind of goals, because obviously we scored the last minute equaliser against Chelsea. Yeah. Then last minute winner against Bournemouth, last minute winner against Marseille. That Marseille goal was absolutely huge. And do you know what? I was sat there screaming at the TV because there's one centre back, there's Højbjerg and Brian Hill, and I'm saying pass the ball, and then he just smashes it into the far corner, and it was outrageous. But and you'd never ask him to do that. But that was huge because obviously it meant that we topped the group. But in terms of like what the Spurs need to do and what are they talking about, the words that I've heard spoken around are that in the summer it was about quantity, and in January it's about quality. Apparently, that's what they're saying. Well, now all I've heard is that Daniel Levy has said that he believes that Antonio Conte is the best coach that he's ever worked with, and he wants him to stay, and the Spurs are willing to back him. Whether that will come to fruition, I don't know.
I think that Daniel Levy's version of I'll back the manager and Antonio Conte's version of I'll back the manager are, one is talking about was it Musilewski, and the other one's probably talking about I want Barella, and I want your man from Milan, the other holding midfielder from Milan, Tonali. I wouldn't mind Chiesa.
But it was a bit like the time when Spurs wanted Bruno Fernandes and instead they got Jedson Fernandes.
Look, the same surname, the both
exactly.
They're not that different.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not that different on FIFA. That's about it.
I know, let's see. Kind of what Spurs do. I really think, that because Antonio Conte signed an 18-month contract at Spurs. There is the 1 year option that I keep hearing people talk about. But in reality, if we look at it, kind of 18 months, it runs out in the summer. So for me, if you want to keep a manager of his caliber and his experience and, how from where I sit with Antonio Conte a few weeks ago, I was thinking, why would he stay? I always saw, and I apologize if I'm rambling on, but I always saw what would happen here is that Antonio Conte would leave, and then Spurs would just go straight back in, and their vision was to go straight back for Mauricio Pochettino in the summer. Yeah. That's how I've seen, and I still kind of feel might go. If we end up backing Conte in January, then that shows real intent from the board. Again, it's a difficult time to sign players, but it's been done before, and we desperately need it. I saw the comment from you guys saying Richarlison is expensive quantity. He was an expensive player, but I tell you what, the Spurs fans absolutely love him. And
I get why.
And what you get from him is you get passion, you get drive, you get effort. He was never going to be a guy that competed with the likes of Son and Kane or even Kulusevski with goals. And I think we spoke about this before.
Yeah.
But, he definitely brings that grit and that kind of mentality that I think he wants with the likes of, even Højbjerg in midfield, Richarlison kind of up top of the pitch with Romero at the back. He kind of wants that kind of attitude throughout the
Romero's
team.
Quality.
He's out as well, so.
Yeah, the thing is with Richarlison to me is kind of like Bernardo Silva at City. Absolutely brilliant player if he's your player.
Yeah,
he's an absolute shithouse if he's someone else's player. You want absolutely nothing to do with him bar to smash his face in.
If they don't play for you, they should be suspended. Those type of players. That's how I feel. There's a couple hockey players like that, like Brad Marchand of the Boston Bruins. He's one of the best players in the league. And if you are not a Boston Bruins fan, you think he should be in jail. Yeah, I can't stand him, but he's brilliant and secretly would have loved to have had him on my team.
Oh, man, Patrick, Tottenham, Liverpool. I mean, it's one of those games that down the years, we've got Liverpool have a good record against Spurs. Bar one. I think we do generally do okay. But in years gone by, it was one of those games that it was open attacking in to win football. We're not going to get that this weekend, I don't think.
Yeah, I've got it down here. 14 Liverpool wins, 8 draws, 5 wins the last 27 matches. So that's pretty good for Liverpool. They've won more than half the matches. So, the issue I have is you guys have been talking about is the injuries that Spurs have up top. It's devastating. It just is. It's Harry Kane and it's nobody else. And Brian Hill hasn't played. I mean, I don't follow, so I know about him. He hardly plays. So if he was to be put in there, it's going to be the link-up play with Kane's non-existent. They haven't played together that much at all. So from my standpoint, it's going to be interesting. And again, right now for Liverpool, there's no such thing as do or die. They have to win this match. I mean, it's at the point where they've had so many just poor performances and poor results of late. They have to win this match. And honestly, you just said they've had a good record against Spurs, and there's no better time to play Spurs than now with those upfront injuries and the way that Conte plays. Again, you've mentioned it too. I mean, I don't watch Spurs play. I did watch the Marseille game. It was a brilliant win, but the way that Conte plays, I don't know how Spurs fans handle that. I mean, yes, you want to win, and I know one of the things is they want to win a trophy, and that'd be great to get to a trophy. That's what you're looking for. But the style of play that he plays is difficult. But again, if he's like he did at Chelsea, wins you a title, then you're going to take it all day, right? So there's that. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. But like I said, I really think at this point, no, Liverpool have to win that match. They just have to win a match Sunday.
I'm going to come back to Luke quickly. 1 minute. Would you take a draw now?
Yeah, I was literally waiting for the score predictions, and that's literally what
I was going to come back. I was going to come back to you with the score. I'll come back to you with score predictions.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say though. Like, give me a draw now. Like, turn the TVs off. Let's just cancel the game. Let's all just have a nice Sunday roast.
Yeah, I mean, the 10-point gap for us, it's must win. For Spurs, it's must not lose.
Yeah,
and that's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Is it a case that he goes into this game with a 5-4-1 and just say? Doesn't matter whether he's at home. Doesn't care. He'll play Liverpool on the merits of the side that's in front of him, rather than we're at home. This is Spurs. This is how we play, and you're going to play the Antonio Conte way.
But I don't think we have the quality to be able to perform those duties in which he wishes us to do. Which sounds a bit of a weird way of saying it, but if he wishes us to just set out. Solid in defense, to break down teams, and to be able to keep possession and not lose it. For the last however many games, when we lose possession in that defensive third. We give the ball away numerous times. And I would be very concerned if you got a goal and we were playing like that and he didn't do anything, he didn't allow the shackles to come on, then it could get more. Our biggest problem is, and you know, those that are watching, like, watch out for it on Sunday, is that when the attacking wingers for the opposition have the ball, our team obviously sets up in two banks, right?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They are allowed to play the ball across the 18-yard box. And we conceded a goal against Arsenal like that from Thomas Partey. And nobody closes the ball down. And they allow the play to go across the 18-yard box. And for me, that's a really worrying sign for Spurs. Because if you're going to play like that, somebody needs to step out. But instead, it's always doubling up with the wing-backs, because I don't think he trusts his wing-backs.
Yeah, the thing is, if Spurs do that with Trent, I mean, you could do that with Salah, because Salah's not going to cut it back on his right foot.
Yeah.
He'll come back onto his left. But if you give Trent and Robertson the kind of space to deliver balls to Darwin, if Darwin plays through the middle, then it's a recipe for disaster.
Or even tee it up to the likes of Fabinho or Thiago, you know, at the edge of the box.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, the only thing I'd make different from your lineup is I'd start Darwin on the left and I'd have Bobby through the middle. Purely, I know he looked a bit ropey against Napoli, but let's be honest, Napoli are not Spurs. Spurs are not going to play like Napoli and come out and, you know, take you on straight up. And that's no disrespect to Spurs. That's not their game.
No.
Right.
But I think if you have Bobby playing in that false nine role and you don't have Romero as a centre back, you could have, I don't care, whatever three centre backs you like in there. If you've got Bobby to pull them around, leaving space for everyone, for Darwin and Salah to move in and around it, I think that has to be the way. I think that's our strongest 11 available at the minute. And if Darwin starts as a left wing, he's not going to stay there. We know he's not going to stay there.
No.
But he is the absolute wreaker of havoc when he plays. You know, something happens. Always. He gets assists, he gets goals, he gets shots off, he brings others into play. I mean, outside of Haaland, who's an absolute freak, his goal return per minute played is right up there. I think this is a tailor-made game for him. Away in London, Tottenham, massive stadium. I think this is the occasions that you sign a Darwin Núñez for.
Yeah. It's, to me, the biggest thing about Darwin Núñez is things change when you have absolute elite level pace. And he does. I think clocked as the fastest sprint ever recorded in the history of the Premier League since they started using radar guns. And just with the eye test, like within the first 2 minutes in our game against West Ham, there was a ball dinked over the top that looked like 100% it was going out for a goal kick. And he just turned the afterburners on and just pulled the ball in. And having that elite level pace, it's just a game changer. Like you saw when he tried to cross the ball for Salah against Napoli, where he just stood the defender up and boom, he was gone. And he had 2 yards of space to put a good cross across the box because he just had that, like, over a long distance, but also right out of the blocks. He's just that quick. And like, I'm presuming we're going to see something like Dyer, Clement Longley, and Ben Davies as a back three for Spurs. None of them seem like they're blessed with pace. Like, there's a lot of forehead being brought to the table by Eric Dyer, but not a lot of pace. So, like, I like the prospects of that. And I saved this comment from Laszlo Panafle here about the lineup being a 4-4-2 diamond with Bobby playing as the 10 tip of the diamond with Salah and Núñez up top. And until the Leeds game, where that kind of diamondy formation for us seemed to fall flat on its face, I really like that because it got both Núñez and Salah centrally positioned on the field. I don't think Klopp's going to do that for this game. He went back to the 4-3-3 against probably our second toughest opponents of the season after playing Man City. Like, Napoli are dynamite. That team is great. Like, if you guys aren't watching Napoli play in the Champions League, watch Napoli play in the Champions League. They're a great team. And we got a good result against them. So, and I think that Curtis Jones is doing better on the left than Darwin Núñez in terms of the defensive positioning that he needs to take up from the game. So that's why I kind of went with that, though I originally went with Bobby in the middle of a 4-3-3. But to me, Darwin Núñez has to play. He has to play.
For me too.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't if we start Bobby with Darwin out on the left, it really handcuffs in terms of making substitutions later in the game if we need to affect the game in a positive way and in an offensive way. Because then we're looking at bringing Fabio Carvalho off the bench, Curtis Jones off the bench.
Yeah,
and none of these guys bring that thing. And like Bobby Firmino, he's not a natural goal scorer, but he has an ability to create magic and make goals come out of nowhere because he plays
like a goal against Spurs as well.
This is true. Bobby does like not as much as he likes a goal against Arsenal.
No,
but he does like a goal against Spurs.
He loves going to the capital, doesn't he?
Yes, exactly.
As Cara put it, he loves going to the smoke.
Yeah. It's good shopping for his missus, and then he gets to go bang a couple of goals, go home. Everybody's happy that
ever since I put Firmino on my fantasy football team, he's absolutely dried up completely. So, and I was literally sitting there while you were talking, like, shall I take him out? Shall I not? And then I just thought to myself, I'll leave him in.
Look, about 3 weeks ago, I had a beard. I shaved the beard off. And it was like, we won the next game. So, okay, the beard's staying off. Then we lost the Leeds. I said, okay, the beard's coming back. The winter's coming, man. Okay, Patrick, I'll ask you score for this one, please.
So, notice that only 2 draws for Spurs so far. Chelsea, I guess, and West Ham. I picked a draw in the other 2 matches, but I can't see a draw in this one. Everything you guys have been saying, I just have a feeling, like I said, that Liverpool have to win this match. There's going to be goals in it, so I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool.
Okay. Sam, checks in the post, Patrick, by the way. Sam, goals and goal scorers for you for Spurs, if you're going for goal scorers.
So, you're reading the comments.
I'm reading the comment. You moved for Luke.
Sorry, that's my bad.
Oh, so for me, sorry.
Luke,
sorry.
Because it's your team, you got to name a goal scorer.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-1. And I don't even know who will score. I don't really want to go Harry Kane because that's the obvious choice.
It's got to be Kane, let's be fair.
You know what? I'm going to go with a midfielder, and I'm going to say Højbjerg scores.
Ooh. Do you know what? I like him.
He's got 4 or 5 goals this season already. Yeah. Best goal scoring 5. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets forward, doesn't he? And he's got a banger on him. He does and he's good from corners as well. He's good from set pieces. And with Perisic, assuming is it a case that Perisic might play wide as a left wing and Ryan Sessegnon behind him to double up on Salah?
Potentially. That's, they've played Perisic on the right. They've tried Sessegnon on the right, Perisic on the left, which I don't like. But they haven't tried Perisic and Sessegnon on the left. And that, because if Spurs play 5 in midfield, we get beat. We get beat, I reckon. Because I don't believe that the likes of Basuma, whether Bentancur plays or not, and Højbjerg, or whether that ends up being Ollie Skip. I think we get beat because we can't hold the ball in midfield. We can't retain possession very well in midfield. So I think if we play with a 5 midfield, or 3, whichever way you want to look at it, we get beat. So that might be a nice way of looking at it, and I wouldn't be against that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've rated Ivan Perisic for years. I think he's a quality footballer, and he was probably the smartest buy. Yeah, of 100%. One of the smartest buys of the summer, irrespective of age. Whatever they put in the water in Croatia, man, it's between him and Modric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just like silk footballers, and irrespective of and it's like they're these players that if they're on the telly, you just want to watch them. And I couldn't care less what he does on Sunday. I hope he has an absolute stinker. But in general, I think he's a phenomenal footballer. Matt, how do you see this one going, mate, and goal scorers for you?
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of the rules. I'm just looking a little bit of the stats on Spurs, and once Heung-min Son falls out of that team, there's not a lot of goals in that team, with the exception of Harry Kane. And I think Ibu Konate coming back in, I think he's going to be up for it. I think Harry Kane, by default, is going to try to pick on the young center half and not Virgil van Dijk, even though that's probably the wrong thing. And I think Ibu is going to have a good game. I got 2-0 Liverpool. Van Dijk is finally going to put one of his headers from a corner into the net. And the agent of chaos, Darwin Núñez, is going to score and do something brilliant. 2-0.
2-0.
Did I say my score prediction?
Yeah, you went 1-1.
Oh, good. I'm going insane.
You did. You went 1-1. Look, I know we're past. Yeah, you went 1-1. I went 2-1. Salah and Bobby. And if I was going to be pushed for a Spurs scorer, Lucas Moura. I think Lucas Moura, if he plays, he's just a really good finisher when he gets a chance. And it's the one thing that I think the way we'll play is the line will be high. You know, they'll back themselves against Kane for pace.
Yeah.
And they'll back themselves against Lucas Moura for pace. But if Kane plays that deep, slightly deeper role and they get the runners from deep right, it's probably the way that Spurs can get in. Even though it's away from home, they're always tough games. They're not easy. You don't get easy games against an Antonio Conte side, irrespective of who's injured and who isn't. But first goal is key. Spurs don't like scoring first. We hate conceding first. You know, it's just one of those, isn't it? It's like, but I think if we get ahead, Spurs will still sit in and wait till the last 20 minutes to try to get a draw. Whereas if we go one behind, they'll park the bus and then bring another bus and then bring another bus and bring another one for good measure. It'll be a long day if we go behind to this lot.
Yep.
Yeah, but look, I was going to skip through the rest of the games because look, there's 7 other games in the league. Just go around the houses, one each. Matt, we'll start with you. Leeds against Bournemouth.
1-0 Leeds. Bamford finally gets his 100th goal.
Okay, Patrick, Man City against Fulham.
Man City 3-1.
Cool. Luke, Forest against Brentford.
1-0 Brentford.
Ooh. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me actually. Matt, Wolves against Brighton.
0-0. Awful game to watch.
I agree.
Okay, Patrick, Everton against Leicester.
Awfully, equally poor as 0-0.
Yep.
Can't see anybody scoring that goal. No chance.
Leicester in a bit of form at the minute. It's
Form still hasn't been bottom 3 though, so you know we'll see.
It's an awful game,
like
isn't it? That 5-30.
Terrible game, man. That's a definite miss.
The other games on Sunday: Villa against Manchester United.
Ooh.
New manager bounce coming in the door at Villa.
For me, sorry. Oh no.
No, for Patrick, sorry.
I'd like to think so, but you know they won the first match without the manager 4, and then they give up 4 the following week. They're a strange team, and United, as much as I hate them, are slightly better. So I'm gonna go 2-1 United. Hate saying that, but 2-1 United.
Okay. I'll ask you the same one actually, Luke, because it's a decent game.
Yeah.
Unai Emery, first and foremost to Villa. What's your thoughts on that one?
I think it's a really good signing. I think he was hard done by Arsenal. I think that he wasn't given the time, the backing, the effort the likes of Arteta was given straight away. I feel like Arsenal fans expected way too much of him when he came straight in after Arsene Wenger.
Arsenal fans expect way too. No, I won't have it said.
Exactly, and do you know? And then he's done well. He's done very well at the likes of Sevilla, and Villarreal
as well.
Yeah, he loves winning the Europa League, doesn't he? So
yes, he does.
I think he'll be good. I think he'll be defensive, but I reckon he could get a draw 1-1.
I actually put this one down as 2-1 Villa win personally because I was not impressed with Manchester United at all in the week.
Okay,
I just think that they're starting to get a bit battle worn. They're in a good spot in the league, but their volume of games catches up with everyone.
Gonna catch up with them for sure.
Yeah. I think Emery, when he gets settled in at Villa, they'll be a tough side to play against because they have got a decent squad. Matt, Southampton against Newcastle.
I think it's going to be 2-0 win for Newcastle. My preseason prediction of Southampton getting relegated looked silly for a couple of weeks, but they are in 17th. That's dangerously close to relegation form. Yeah, the Alpine Klopp is going to be out.
Ralph has been there 4 years this week.
Wow,
outrageous.
4 years.
That's outrageous.
How do you survive 2 9-0s? That's like the woman that was on the Titanic and then the Lusitania. Like, you got some luck that you're able to survive those 2 disasters. Like,
very good, very good.
That's great.
Oh, damn. That's it. We've covered them all. last but not least, the GoFundMe in the description for Lydia. I checked it out today. It was on €3,600.
Nice.
The target is 5,000 to get. Matt, you might have to help me out with the condition. It's
endometriosis.
Endometriosis.
But not just like endometriosis is normally something that just affects the reproductive organs. And in Lydia's case, she has it in all of her organs.
All of her organs.
Gosh. Wow.
So like it's just an absolutely horrific case. And I mean, for a girl of 17 to have to be dealing with something that debilitating is awful. And so, I mean, 5,000 is nothing. You know, the charity drives we've done on this channel in the past have been, you know, leagues past €5,000. So I'm delighted to see that number is just clipping up.
It is firing up since we started this, 3 weeks ago? 2-3 weeks ago.
Not even, I think 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it is flying. Yeah. And hopefully we can get this one, get Lydia's drive done, get it boxed off before Christmas, and her family can start to prepare, because it's the physical pain that she's in is one thing. The mental pain, I know from having my youngest is 18, and, you know, she comes out after dinner tonight, so, Dad, me and my boyfriend, we're just going down to the pub for an hour, back in a bit. Lydia can't do that, you know. She can't go out with her mates. She can't. Right. She's studying for A levels, and it's tough. It's tough going. Look, the link is in the description. The link is also on all of our socials. If you can donate, please do. If you can't, we know times are hard. Look, this cost of living crisis is not unique to Ireland or the UK. But if you can donate, fantastic. If you can't, just copy, paste, share it onto your socials, put it into your WhatsApps, and let people read the story and make their own mind up. You never know who's watching. And the thing is, it's a really common condition. A lot of people have suffered, or they know someone who suffered from it. So you never know who you'll reach just by sharing it. And it's the 5ers and 10ers that'll get us there, I promise.
Yeah. And probably a lot more people than you would ever imagine would have it, just because of kind of the taboo and embarrassment around talking about something that's, you know, to do with a woman's uterus sort of thing. It's not casual conversation and a lot. So you never know who you're going to hit on the social media by sharing that along. And we'll get Lydia to her target in no time flat.
Exactly. Listen, we just want to thank Patrick and Luke for coming on. Patrick, where can people find you?
So I'm part of the Back of the Nest crew. So backofnest.com. We do podcasts. We're also on YouTube. So check us out when you get the opportunity. Appreciate you having me on again.
No problem at all. It's absolutely fantastic channel as well. They do knock out some great stuff. Luke, how's your new channel going? Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, mate, I was impressed, actually. You got it correct right at the start as well. So
I was impressed, mate. I nearly got it, apart from Matt screwing me over with the last time Luke was on, I kept getting names mixed up all the time, man. I got to because I did it 2 weeks left for the next 2 weeks straight as well. Got getting names mixed up all the time. Happy me.
Yeah. So first of all, obviously, regarding you guys, like, big up to everyone that always, you know, donates to you guys and your charity drives and everything you do, because it's really respectable, you know, that you kind of don't ask people for money for your channel. Instead, you put it to good causes and to good people. So no, it's really respectable and well done to everyone. So if you can donate, great. If you can't, as you said, just make sure you share it. Regarding me, if you're interested, we talk Spurs. So if you're not interested, then still join us anyway, because we welcome any fan from any channel. It's called Park Lane Podcast. We do a show on YouTube every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. So tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. we'll be online. If you don't like if you don't like YouTube and you'd rather listen to podcasts, we're on all major podcast platforms as well. So tune in, give us a like, and say hi.
All right, that's brilliant, mate. Listen, Chris has done the his latest installment with the Neil from the Anfield Rap and Philippa Smallwood as well on the LFC Women. The show is live now. It's on the list of shows for the channel. Just give it a listen, give it a like, and comment below on what's going on. The LFC Women are doing okay. You know, it's a tough start, rocky start for them in the WSL. Unlucky against Man City last week, lost 2-1. But Chris did some sterling work with the LFC Women's stuff, the content that he's pushing. And, you know, it is a really good show and really, really knowledgeable guests all the time. Well worth it, I promise. Well, Matt, thanks for coming on. How'd you enjoy your Friday?
Yeah, that's a good way to spend a Friday. The wife's out of the house, but yeah, she can't accuse me of ignoring her to come do YouTube shows. So that's good.
Fair enough. I'll live with that. Listen, thanks again to Patrick and to Luke. Thanks for everyone in the chat. If you haven't already, please hit the like button on the way out. We'll see you guys again on Sunday for the post-match show after the Spurs game. Good night.